Steve Hanke, professor of applied economics at Johns Hopkins University, summarized the emerging world order in three blunt statements. First, good for Russia, good for China, and bad for America. This is not a fringe opinion. Richard Hayes, one of America's most respected foreign policy analysts, concluded that China and Russia were clear winners of the conflict, while the United States and Israel gained the least among all the involved parties. The argument is counterintuitive on its surface. Neither China nor Russia fired a single bullet or missile. Neither declared war, neither sent troops. Yet by almost every meaningful strategic, economic and geopolitics measure, both powers have emerged from the first 7 weeks of the US-Iran war in substantially stronger position than when it began, and they achieved this entirely by doing very little. Understanding how requires examining 5 distinct dimensions: energy economics, military resource attrition, dollar hegemony, and shifting of global diplomatic architecture, and the long-term acceleration of a Sino-Russian. Now let's understanding the dimension 1 of where Russia gained $150 billion windfall money, taxes. Russia entered 2026 in genuine fiscal difficulty. Sanctions, the cost of Ukraine war, and suppressed oil export revenue had created serious budgetary pressure. The Kremlin had built its federal budget on oil price assumption of probably $60 per barrel. The eruption of war engulfed sent Brent crude surging towards $120 per barrel. This windfall rescued the Russian war budget, providing the Kremlin with the capital it needs to sustain its military operations in Europe. The magnitude of this windfall is extraordinary. According to a report by Casey Institute, Russia could receive as much as $45 billion to $151 billion in additional budget revenue in 2026, depending on the conflict's duration. Even in an optimist scenario, a 6-week war with fast recovery, Russia earns an additional $84 billion in export earnings and $45 billion in budget revenue compared to a no-war baseline. In the central scenario of a 3-month war, the windfall reaches $161 billion in additional export revenue, roughly $0.5 billion per day, with an extra $97 billion in budget revenue, more than Russia's entire 2025 fiscal deficit.
The war with Iran already has a global impact on the economy, on diplomacy, on military. What does this mean for countries like Russia and China, non-Western powers? How do they respond to this political moment?
Well, I think this war is good news. I mean, as a result of the oil crisis, the Russians are greatly improving their oil sales situation. They're selling more oil than ever, and they're selling that oil at a higher price. So the idea that we, the United States, are going to cripple the Russian economy with sanctions is an argument that basically goes out the window because of this war. If anything, the Russians have a vested interest in seeing this war continue.
Now we move towards dimension second, where China's strategic presence. China's position is more complex and more consequential than Russia's because the gains are structural rather than merely financial. China entered the crisis as the world's largest oil importer and Iran's most important trading partner. The Hormuz blockade created real economic pain for Beijing. Standard modeling suggests China's GDP falls roughly 0.5% for every 25% rise in oil prices. This is not a trivial cost, but China had prepared for exactly this kind of shock. Beijing spent years stockpiling energy reserves, insulating its domestic economy from the current 40% surge in oil prices. When the disruption arrived, China could absorb it in a way that Europe, Japan, and South Korea couldn't. The preparation turns a crisis into a competitive advantage. Those who had not prepared were forced into emerging spending, diplomatic consequences, and energy policy reversal that will shape their strategic posture for years. China simply watched. More importantly, Iran extended China a specific privilege that it denied almost everyone else. While Iran shut down the Strait of Hormuz, it made an important exception. Chinese tankers are allowed to pass through the oil transit choke point unimpeded, and Iranian government officials confirmed that the tankers can receive permissions to travel through the Strait of Hormuz if they agree to sell oil in the Chinese yuan, not US dollar. This single arrangement carries implications far beyond for the immediate crisis. If we talk about dimension 3, the attack on dollar hegemony, the Hormuz crisis has become the most operational specific challenge to the petrodollar system in the 50-year history. About 80% of global oil transactions are settled in US dollar, according to a 2023 estimate by JP Morgan Chase. For Tehran and Beijing, elevating the yuan is a win-win. The use of currency allows China and Iran to skirt US sanctions imposed by the dollar-dominated financial system. It also simplifies and reduces the cost of trade between the sides, which has boomed under a 25-year strategic partnership signed in 2021. The petrodollar regime had already come under pressure before the Iran war. US sanctions on oil from Russia and Iran created an illicit trade that relied on other currencies, including the yuan. Saudi Arabia also joined the M-Bridge project, a central bank digital currency initiative led by China, but that challenged the dollar payment infrastructure. Deutsche Bank strategists assessed that the ongoing conflict might trigger the decline of petrodollar supremacy while beginning the petro-yuan system. The dollar maintain its short-term strength as a safe haven asset, which creates a paradox. Today's dollar value appears strong while its dominant power shows early sign of deterioration. The long-term significance here cannot be overstated. American military and foreign policy power since 1979 are rested partly on dollar reserve currency status. Every country that needs dollar to buy oil must maintain dollar reserves, buy US Treasury bonds, and operate within a financial architecture that Washington controls. If that architecture begins to crack even incrementally, the cost of American military advantageism rises and the leverage that finances it diminishes. Previous de-dollarization discussion were theoretical. This one comes with a choke point, a shadow fleet, an operational payment system in yuan, and a geopolitical crisis with no clear resolution in sight. Now we move to a dimension for the military treason argument. Every third Patriot and Tomahawk missile diverted to Iran will be kept from the frontliners of Ukraine. Russia also has the opportunity to support Iran in targeting American personnel by providing intelligence to identify US military targets throughout the Middle East. Russia can indirectly assist Iran from a distance and still profit from the war without risking a confrontation with the United States and overstretched and depleted US military benefits China in the Pacific and Russia in Ukraine. This argument runs deeper than just weapons inventories. China can continue to use regional proxies to distract and degrade US capabilities in the Pacific and simultaneously position itself favorably with Trump through the lure of trade deals. The Pacific is where the genuinely existential strategic contest between the US and China will play out over Taiwan, over the South China Sea, over the first island chain. Every week that American strategic intention, carrier groups, munition stocks, and diplomatic bandwidth are consumed by the Middle East is a week of reduced pressure on Beijing in the theater that actually matters to it. The US may currently possess military dominance, but Russia and China are effectively winning that what analysts call the risk war. By encouraging a prolonged state of conflict, they are symmetrically weakening Western geopolitical risk score and waiting for the cumulative economic and political pressure to force a strategic retreat. China especially plays the long. If we talk about Dimension 5, the solidification of Sino-Russian axis, perhaps the most consequential and long-term development is the acceleration of the alignment between Moscow and Beijing. What was once a relationship of caution coordination is hardening into structural alignment, reinforced by the energy interdependence, expanding defense cooperation, and increasingly coordinated diplomatic positions. Russia possessing the world's largest resource base, traded its hydrocarbons for niche capital technology and diplomatic cover. China's 2030 development blueprint submitted to the National People's Congress in March reflects renewed momentum for projects such as the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, underscoring Beijing's desire to insulate its economy from Middle Eastern volatility. History has repeatedly shown that the outcomes of war are not determined solely by the victories or losses on the front line. Often the most significant geopolitical consequences unfold in the quieter arenas of resources allocation, strategic focus, and long-term power competition. The most consequential winners may not be the countries directly involved in the fighting, but those observing carefully from a distance, waiting for the balance of global attention to tilt in their favor. The counter-argument where China and Russia are not winning. Intellectual honesty requires acknowledging the limitation of the thesis. China is not a clean winner. China's economy remains structurally dependent on export demand. Europe alone absorbs 50% of China's export. A sustained energy shock that tips Europe and the US into recession would collapse China's export orders, compound the ongoing property crisis, and expose the weakness of domestic demand, which remains squeezed by a property crash. A truly catastrophic energy disruption hurts China too, which is why Beijing has maintained studied neutrality rather than actively encouraging escalation. Russia's gains are real but fragile. Russia has been effectively cut out of the diplomacy to end the Iran conflict, as the Gulf state Pakistan and Turkey have taken the lead. Continuing the war in Ukraine does not benefit Russia strategically. It compounds Russia's demographic and economic problems and starves technological innovation of the resources it needed to be competitive. The oil windfall buys time. It does not solve structural problem, and there is a scenario in which American determination to prevent Iranian nuclear capability regardless of cost eventually succeeds in leaving China without its most strategically useful sanctions busting partner and leaving Russia with a diminished proxy network.